Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Krishna. So as the purport was already read, so with the blessings of devotees, I would just like to share a few words and then we can discuss. As am I audible, Pro? Okay. As we were discussing this pastime from a long time, and today is like the last verses of the chapter. I'm not going to go over an introduction or anything for this story. Today is also the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur. So I thought like we will connect these verses along with his life and so as we all know, Srivas Thakur is one of the Panchatattva. And in his life also, we see there are various personalities that he does interact with. And they all have different kinds of circumstances in their life, like all those different people who are connected with him. And we will try to connect all those personalities with these verses also that we are seeing today. There is this Gopal Chapal, who also is living in Navadvip. So he is also a resident of Navadvip, and he wants to be in the, he actually feels very envious of the devotees. Like he is unable to tolerate the fact that the devotees are having kirtan and they are like, they're having a good time. And he feels very envious about that, and he's very disturbed that specifically that Srivas Thakur is being glorified or is having the fortune of having Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his place. So he, just to defame Srivas Thakur, he arranges outside the home of Srivas Thakur many paraphernalia in such a way to show that Srivas Thakur is engaging in some dubious black magic practices. So in this way, he tries to actually defame Srivas Thakur. And there in the purports also, Srila Prabhupada writes like here, he's acting out of envy, because people might have envy in the heart, but acting out of that envy and trying to defame Srivas Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also clearly says, this particular activity that you engaged in to defame Srivas Thakur is the reason that you will suffer, because later Gopal Chapal immediately develops leprosy and he is suffering. He goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asks him that if he could be actually relieved of this suffering. So he says, no, because you actually very consciously tried to defame Srivas Thakur, you will be actually suffering for this. And in that way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not immediately actually relieve him or anything. He just leaves that place. And later when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes sannyas, goes to Jagannath Puri and visits Navadvip again, that is the time when Gopal Chapal meets Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells him, you go and beg forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. If he forgives you, you will be relieved of this. So then Srivas Thakur is approached by Gopal Chapal, and obviously Srivas Thakur is very merciful, so he forgives him, and then Gopal Chapal is relieved of his sufferings, and later he becomes the famous Devaki Nandan Das Thakur and writes this famous bhajan of Vrindavana Vasiyata Vaishnava Rajan. So here, because he had this problem with Srivas Thakur, and he suffered due to Vaishnava aparad. He writes this bhajan, and the falasuti of that bhajan is anyone who sings that bhajan every day is relieved of Vaishnava aparad, in the sense, at least by reciting that bhajan daily, a person becomes conscious that one should not be offending. And that bhajan is a beautiful bhajan. It glorifies it. Like he actually takes shelter of all the Vrindavan Vasis, all the Navadvip Vasis, all the Jagannath Puri Vasis, and he offers obeisances to everyone who's yet to be a devotee, who will become a devotee in the future. In that way, he offers obeisances. He expresses humility in that bhajan. So from being Gopal Chapal to Devaki Nandan Das Thakur, so uh, this journey happens in through Srivas Thakur's blessings. And Srivas Thakur also has to deal with another guest. So because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his Kirtan pastimes at the place of Srivas Thakur, because Srivas Thakur's place is considered as, house is considered as the Rasasthali of Navadvip pastimes. Like how there is Ras Leela in Vrindavan, similarly there are Kirtan pastimes in the Navadvip. In the beginning, before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened it for everybody, it was only allowed for a particular group of devotees, and that happened every day at Srivas Thakur's place. So his place is considered as the Rasasthali of Navadvip pastimes. And because not everybody is allowed, Srivas Thakur used to have many invitations, like many requests to join. And he would be in a fix because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told him nobody without his knowledge can join. And he would have so many requests, like, please let us join. Like, what's the problem? Like, we are like, and especially he had a milk drinking Brahmana who would persistently request him. And one day he thought, okay, this person is at least pious, so why not include him? So he invites them and he hides them somewhere so that he could see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he is not in he is not in public. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finds out, and then he kind of yells at Srivas Thakur, how is this person, why is this person here? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srivas Thakur says, not any sinful person, but a very pious milk drinking Brahmana is here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, how dare he thinks just by drinking milk he can have the qualification of seeing me or like being in my pastimes. And here this this Brahmana, he immediately comes out of fear, and he understands, I've had this great fortune of seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance and kirtan, but I'm going to be punished for that. But it's okay. It's a small price that I would have to pay, because ultimately I already got the darshan. It's okay if I'm being punished. And he was very humble, and he submitted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing his heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, you're kind of qualified. You can continue to be here. So this is another person who was related to Srivas Thakur, who received a certain kind of reciprocation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there is this famous pastime of Dukhi, who is a servant of Srivas Thakur. She is named Dukhi because all her previous brothers or sisters who were born, they all died. So their parents thought if they horribly name a child, Yamaraj will be detested and he wouldn't actually come to take that child away. And so they name her Dukhi, one who is actually miserable. So they thought Yamaraj would think already her name is miserable, so I don't want to like really go close to her or something like that. And she survives, and the name also sticks to her. So she is still called as Dukhi when she is a servant of Srivas Thakur. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes every day to Srivas Thakur's place, and he sees this water is being very nicely arranged, especially during the Mahaprakash Leela. The devotees are offering Abhishek to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there is like pots and pots of Ganges water which is being offered. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, who's bringing all this water and arranging it so nicely? And Srivas Thakur says, it is Dukhi, my servant. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, actually, she is not Dukhi, she is Sukhi, because she is actually such an amazing servant of yours. And just by being connected to Srivas Thakur and having a humble service attitude, Dukhi actually transforms into Sukhi and receives the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. So we are trying to see various personalities who are connected to Srivas Thakur in some way and becomes an what you call an recipient of mercy in various ways. And also there is a Muslim tailor of Srivas Thakur. He is Srila Prabhupada writes in the purpose of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he is even a meat eater, but he is actually a servant of Sri Chaitanya, Srivas Thakur. He is stitching clothes for Srivas Thakur. And one day he happens to be at Srivas Thakur's place when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was outside dancing. And he sees Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually looks at him and is very pleased because he is serving Srivas Thakur and shows him internally darshan of Sri Krishna dancing. So even though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is dancing, the tailor is able to see that it is Sri Krishna, that it is actually Radha and Krishna dancing. So he shouts, I saw, because others are only seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but for him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that he is not different from Radha and Krishna, and he is having the eternal Vrindavan pastimes here in Sri Navadvip Dham in the form of Kirtan. So he is jumping in ecstasy that finally I saw, and everybody is confused. And here is a person who is a meat eater, but he is a servant of Srivas Thakur, and he receives the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and becomes a great devotee. And more than anything, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once says, even the cats and dogs at the house of Srivas Thakur would be liberated, will achieve Krishna Prem. And aptly, in one of the verses in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'll try to remember, I'm not sure. Sri Chaitanya Padamboja Madhupebhyo Namo Namaha Katanchit Ashray Yesham Shwapi Tadganda Bhag Bhavet. Here is a verse of by Srila Kaviraj Goswami as an invocation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is in the beginning of a chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He glorifies that. Let me offer my obeisances, Namo Namaha, again and again, to whom Madhupebhyo, means those people who are like honeybees, who are collectors of honey. Honeybees are the collectors of honey. And Sri Chaitanya Padamboja means from where are they collecting honey from? They are collecting honey from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so sweet. It's considered as Padamboja. It is considered as lotus. So from there, honey is being collected by who? The devotees. So Srila Kaviraj Goswami is offering all his obeisances to those honeybees. So those honeybees are actually devotees. So he is offering his obeisances to the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And somebody may ask why. He says, Katanchid Ashraya Desham. Even like unknowingly, if someone takes shelter of those devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Katanchid, like even like kind of occasionally, unknowingly, if somebody is taking shelter of those devotees, what happens? Shwapi Tadganda Bhag Bhavet. Means I'm telling on the strength of Kaviraj Goswami that even dogs or dog-like people can actually become Tadganda Bhag Bhavet. They'll be able to actually appreciate honey. Means they'll become such refined people just by even occasionally or like even accidentally or unknowingly taking shelter of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here we see there are various people who interacted with Srivas Thakur, as simple as his pets, cats and dogs, his household animals. They benefited by being connected to Srivas Thakur. And the Muslim tailor, he benefited by being a tailor of Srivas Thakur. He was just being a tailor of many people in Navadvip and also Srivas Thakur. And Dukhi, a simple maidservant of Srivas Thakur, and the milk drinking Brahmana, just by being a guest of Srivas Thakur, and Gopal Chapal, just by having a negative interaction with Srivas Thakur, still he ultimately became like Devakinandan Das Thakur. So here, Srivas Thakur is the same personality, saintly person. Here in this purport today, we saw how the discussion is about the demons trying to cause trouble to saintly persons. So here we see Srivas Thakur actually the representative of all saintly people, because Panchatattva-atmakum Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakim Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So he is one of those five personalities, five principles called as Panchatattva, where he represents the principle of pure devotee, saintly persons. Pure devotee is the leader of all saintly persons. So that Srivas Thakur interacted with various personalities, and all of them had different ways that they received Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Some received it instantly, some suffered actually, like Gopal Chapal, and later received the mercy in a different way. So their personal attitude towards Srivas Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a difference in their in the way that they received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is the same Srivas Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of these personalities interacted with, but their own personal attitude, how they dealt with Srivas Thakur, and what is their situation of their heart, actually made difference in how they received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was not same for everyone. So especially in the case of Gopal Chapal, because he was very envious, because he was very envious, he had to suffer. He had to suffer, and it took time for him to be completely reformed in his heart, until he was repentant and he was ready to beg forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. And it's the same for the milk drinking Brahmin, because he was very humble, even though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initially upset, because he remained humble, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw this person is humble, so he is qualified. And he is also allowed by Srivas Thakur, and over and above, he is personally humble. So that is the qualification, that he was humble enough to understand that he was not qualified to receive Krishna's mercy. Duki, and she was a servant, a humble servant of a Vaishnava. That is her only qualification. And Muslim tailor also, he is a personal servant of a Vaishnava, and he was humble at heart, and he was not considering I am from a different religion. And no, when God showed himself, he could understand, yes, here it is. Here the Supreme Lord is coming to me in his original form. So he accepted. And the cats and dogs, they were simple, and they were just indiscriminatory, and they were serving Srivas Thakur, and that's all they had to be. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy easily flowed there. So a connection with a saintly person, a connection with a pure devotee, is the most important thing for a person to receive Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, especially when they had the proper intentions or the proper attitude in dealing with the devotee. So here we see these people are prosecuting or persecuting saintly persons, and we see what is the result of that. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is saying they will lose everything, all their good qualities, longevity, their wealth, everything will be lost, because they are committing they're causing difficulty or a trouble for somebody. Okay, there is some noise. If someone is unmuted accidentally, kindly mute yourself. So in that connection about intentions, Kapil Dev discusses in Canto 3 that how there are different types of bhakti. Bhakti is pure, to be mindful of here, to consider bhakti as tamasic or rajasic or sattvic is not right. Whereas the person who's practicing bhakti, if his intentions, if he is personally in those gunas, if his intentions are covering his performance of bhakti, then that practice is considered as either tamasic bhakti or rajasic bhakti or sattvika bhakti. Tamasic bhakti, the sign of it is actually the person utilizes, or this person's bhakti is covered by intentions to harm others, intentions to actually uh, means being angry, devoid of compassion, utilizing the benefits of bhakti to cause harm to others. So in that way, so this person could be utilizing bhakti for the sake of pride and hatred. So then that bhakti becomes tamasic. And similarly, there is rajasic bhakti where the person is worshipping the Lord with a strong desire for other objects. That becomes the main focus of the practice of devotional service that this person is engaging in, because they are actually uh, their goals are like of material gain and or wealth and followers. That is the main focus, even while engaging in the practices of bhakti. So that intention makes this bhakti as rajasic. And in sattvika bhakti, the intention is actually to be free from pain, free or liberation, or even like considering it as like a way to actually overcome the uh, to destroy their karma, or to make work as an offering. Whatever work I'm doing, I make this as an offering to the Lord, or worshipping as a matter of duty, because they know, understand, okay, this is my duty, I should be doing it. So it is not wrong, these things. However, in a pure bhakti, in nirguna bhakti, as Kapil Dev explains, or also as Rupa Goswami explains, these coverings are not there. It is only performed for the pleasure of Krishna. So understanding how wonderful is Krishna and how they're directly attracted to Krishna, and there the hearing about the qualities of Krishna about from the scriptures, from the devotees, their heart is directly flowing to Krishna, and their heart is overcome by or what you call like is completely absorbed in Krishna, and their main primary motive is to please Krishna. Their main primary motive is not their pride, or they or their desire to achieve name or fame, or to actually reduce their karmic reactions, or to liberate from the material existence. Their main focus is actually to please Krishna, and that is the reason they are performing devotional service, and that is considered as nirguna bhakti. So because this, it's the same practice of devotional service, but when a person performs it with varying intentions, it could take different qualities, and it could be considered as like tamasic bhakti. Again, it is not the bhakti which is considered tamasic, but it is actually the person who is practicing the bhakti is considered is tamasic, because he is overcome by hatred, he is
Tamasic,
overcome by anger.
bhakta, right? Tamasic bhakta or tamasic bhaktin. Yeah.
The bhakti performed by a tamasic person is considered as like tamasic bhakti. It's not again. It's I'm using the same terms as Kapil Dev, so I wouldn't say it's not tamasic bhakti, because I understand the definition, the explanation is given, because the what you call the act of devotional service that he performs uh, becomes covered. It does not get contaminated, it just gets covered. So what, yes, he is in tamasic, he is a devotee, but he is in a tamasic kind of an attitude that is also there, and the devotional service that he exhibits is also covered by that, has the symptoms of that his tamasic guna. So it's both, it's his performance is tamasic and tamasic bhakti, and he is a tamasic bhakta. Yeah, it sounds very odd, but it's like the intentions are covered, so it kind of is like odd also. And gradually the person can be purified, but there will be more and more obstacles. We will see people like Daksha as an example in Srimad Bhagavatam, because he has that pride. So he commits offenses against Lord Shiva, and he even that further causes him to commit offenses to Narada Muni, who's also actually Shiva's Thakur. Shiva's Thakur is an expansion of Narada Muni. So here also Daksha is actually having an interaction with Shiva's Thakur, or like Narada Muni, and we see it differs. Because of that, he commits offenses, and it takes time for him to actually like go through that. Go through purification. So the point why I was brought in this topic is like actually the intentions of a person engaging in devotional service or interacting with the devotees changes the output that they receive, changes the effect that they receive through that interaction. If a person is having that humble attitude, just by being directly in touch with a person, great devotee like Srila Prabhupada, they actually completely like revolutionize their life with Krishna Bhakti. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada also interacted with certain people who were very envious, who were very, very disrespectful, and that didn't do them any good. So that is why it is important to see it's not just a saintly person, it's also there is a responsibility on the other side, how they are dealing with that saintly person. Accordingly they can receive mercy. Sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hai. It's true that an association of a pure devotee actually is very transforming. However, it also, the onus is on the other side also. What is the level? What is the heart? How is the heart? Sometimes we see even a very envious person is also transformed like Gopal Chapal, but that takes time, or it externally it appears in a certain way. The devotee is actually uh, like is a merciful personality. There is no change in that. However, sometimes a devotee is also advised to actually keep away from envious people by Rupa Goswami. So the main point that I wanted to make here is like the devotees are merciful. However, when we interact with them, if our heart is having bad intentions, then we will have to suffer for those bad intentions. So that is why we need to be careful of what is our intention, what is the level of our heart, because that will affect our bhakti also. And there are all these gunas are there, but Krishna says, "Mam shyo vyabhacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate." He says, by engaging in bhakti yoga in our vyabhacharena way, you can overcome the effects of guna. That means this person is not freed from guna. Still, by practicing bhakti, this person can be purified of gunas. So while being affected by the modes, still a person can perform pure devotional service, and that's a good news. That's a good news, because if we consider only we become pure, or only when we become like completely relieved of all modes, which is impossible in this material world, because this place is Daivesha Gunamai. This place is actually Gunamai, and to be completely relieved of all modes and then I'll be able to practice pure devotional service. No, Krishna is saying while being in the modes, a person can actually perform Avyabhacharayana Bhakti, and through that he will transcend the three modes. So how is it possible? If we can make sure our intentions are not overcome by these three modes, we may be in the three modes, we may have certain effects of the modes on us, but if we make sure our intentions in devotional service are not covered by these three modes, we are not performing the devotional service for the sake of name, fame, or even to like to be proud, or to be to show, to exercise our anger on others, or to influence others through our abilities. If our intentions are not covered, and if our intention is not just to be liberated, or not to just counteract our karmic reactions, but one and only to please Krishna, to please Guru and the devotees, If that is our intention, honest intention, then that devotional service is actually pure devotional service. And through that, gradually, we will be able to overcome the three modes. So a little pure devotional service can actually give birth to more. So in that way, eventually, we'll be able to overcome, even though we are in this material world influenced by the three modes, we will be able to transcend the three modes by the power of the devotional service. And yeah, in that way, we can be actually be purified. So, and the one of the important things that Kapil Dev says, the sign of Nirguna Bhakti is the mind is focused on Krishna, especially his topics. When a person is focused on hearing about Krishna, that is the easiest way to focus on Krishna and to purify one's. When somebody is hearing about Krishna for the pleasure of Krishna, then gradually that focus about hearing on about Krishna actually purifies and takes their mind away from anger or desire or liberation. So in that way, taking their mind away and focusing on Krishna for his pleasure, and that by that association with Krishna, their mind could be actually purified of all influences of the modes, and their devotion could become purely pure, and Krishna can receive pleasure through that devotional service. So that is the hint that Kapil Dev says, that how these modes, the influence of the modes on one's devotional service could be removed by focusing on the qualities of Krishna, by focusing on Krishna while hearing about Krishna. So in this way, it's the same devotion service, it's the same devotees, but how we are influenced, how our intentions are influenced, can actually give us different varying benefits in devotional service. So in that way, to be actually a person who gives pleasure to Krishna, one needs to be, that's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari, a person who is humble, who is actually tolerant and not expecting any respect from others, that person can engage in actually continuous chanting of the holy names and give pleasure to Krishna. And in this way, when somebody is serving, being a servant of devotees, like Srivas Thakur was served by Dukhi, that humble attitude of service, of being a servant of the servant, is a sure way to receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially when it is done with a pure heart. So these are the few thoughts that I could share today. Forgive me if they were like slightly unconnected and unpolished. If anybody would like to share something, please feel free to do so. Yes, Mother Gail.
Wow, what a wonderful class. We have something in the chat after Gail. Gail, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you know how wonderful it is for me to see you back. Anyway, my question is about this Tamasic Bhakti Yoga, Tamasic Bhakti, the Bhakti in the modes. I understood your point that, Bhakti can never be contaminated. But it just seems to me that since doing the Bhakti, pure Bhakti in the modes, with covered by, materialistic intentions, poses an obstacle to one's experience of progressing on the path and ultimately prema. Since it presents an obstacle, it does seem like a technicality to say that bhakti is never contaminated, it's always pure, it's just covered by the modes. So I'm not seeing what's the difference between saying, that bhakti is tamasic, for example, and saying that it's, pure bhakti covered by the modes. What's really the difference? Seems like a technicality or semantics, I don't know. Uh-oh, can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I was just saying, like, you're asking, like, since the bhakti is not able to deliver prema, it seems like to call like the bhakti is only covered by tamasic. It just seems to be like a semantic, like it just seems to be a way of looking at it. But it seems like the bhakti is like being obstructed by the tamasic guna. So why not just call like tamasic bhakti?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, it's somewhat similar. Like even the holy name also we say offensive chanting, offenseless chanting. The name is non-different from Krishna. Krishna can never be covered by our offenses or anything. But our ability to actually give pleasure to Krishna or manifest Krishna's presence fully and purify our hearts, that is reduced by our offenses. The holy name is the same, but still the offenses are actually stopping Krishna from manifesting his full potency. So we won't say there the name of Krishna is like offensive or anything. It's just like the person who's uttering is not having the ability to see. Say, for example, if you have, it's an instrument actually, which is defective, but it's not the object which is seen through the instrument that is defective inherently.
It's 8 o'clock.
Like I have glasses, my glasses have a crack or a dust, but it's not that what I see is having any problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the person performing the devotional service is pure, but when it is manifested by this instrument, this devotee, that devotee is still covered by tamasaguna, his intention specifically. So the devotional service, it has all the potential, but it is being manifested by a person who is in the mode of darkness or mode of passion or whatever. So because of that, it is considered as tamasic bhakti. The bhakti, because devotional service is actually an energy of Krishna, it can never be covered in a sense. But this person is not having the qualification to experience that because he is covered. Like in one place it says, like Krishna, the souls are unable to be attracted to Krishna. It's like magnet, like attracting another magnet. But currently it is covered with rust or iron being connected to magnet. So it's the iron which is covered with rust. But the magnet is remaining with the same potential.
Yeah.
So if it is removed on the top of the iron, it would again be able to get attracted to the magnet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very clear, Prabhu. Yeah, actually, your explanation reminded me of and you mentioned it yourself, the sun analogy. The sun is always potent, but if I hide in the house, right, by doing my my bhakti with ulterior motives, right, then I won't experience the potency of the sun, even though the sun is hasn't lost anything. It's I who am hiding myself with rust or like that, right? Yeah.
So still your question remains, is it just a semantic?
I mean, your explanation is clear for me. It clarified everything, but I just feel like the language is very misleading.
Yeah, I would say true, because as soon as we hear tamasic bhakti, it seems like the bhakti is tamasic. It's actually the person who's performing that bhakti is tamasic. That note is there, but the term is utilized in the commentaries, so I'm not like shying away from using them.
Well, please shy away. But thank you. You clarify.
It is to actually shake us actually to understand, because we usually after becoming devotees, we kind of take it granted. Now I have a certain externals and I have the ability to chant. So my bhakti should be pure, or like even no, at least like we can get away with do whatever under the name of devotional service. But Kapil Dev says, no, it's not like that. We have to actually purify intention. So it kind of like a little bit unsettling. So to hear that bhakti could be tamasic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much. You clarified it beautifully. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Imagine what kind of class Gaura Sharan can give when he's not sick. Wow. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We can take one more burning question. Dear Bhaktas and Bhaktins, if not, I'll ask my question.
I see something in the chat. Is this something like Namabhas and Shuddhanam? I would say, yeah, something similar. Something similar.
Gaura Sharan Prabhu, when we're in Tamas, my wife just walked in and she said, yeah, Tamasic Bhakti, yeah, that's me. She started relating immediately. So my question is, when we're in Tamas, to get up to pure Bhakti, do we have to go through Rajas first and then Sattva and then pure Bhakti, or we can jump right over those things and become a gopi or something? I'm joking, I'm kidding, but I hope you get my point.
Yeah, there are classic questions in the assembly of devotees, like especially about developing good qualities, coming to mode of goodness. Yeah, means its mode of goodness is not the ultimate, but we don't need to be averse to that also, because ultimately, as you're saying, like to go to pure bhakti, do we have to come from mode of ignorance to passion to goodness? Like by going by the words of Srila Prabhupada says mode of goodness, generally a devotee conducts all his activities in the mode of goodness. And externally in the world it manifests, because all your activities has to manifest in some modes in this world. So a devotee generally, not necessarily always, generally conducts his lifestyle, conducts his activities in the mode of goodness, because they are more conducive to transcendence. So we don't need to then the question is, do I have to cultivate goodness? That's the underlying unsaid thought. Like, do I have to cultivate goodness first and then go to devotional service? Actually, the best way to be situated in the mode of goodness, for sure, short way to be situated in the mode of goodness is to follow the instructions of one's spiritual master. By that way, everything will be achieved. So if we know, if any of our activities, we are in doubt whether it is in mode of goodness or passion or ignorance, we don't need to go get into the details. Just see if it is pleasing to your guru. If it is according to the instructions of your spiritual master, then you can be very sure, at least it's like it is externally at least mostly manifesting in the mode of goodness. Even if it is not, don't worry. All you are focused is about giving pleasure to Krishna and giving pleasure to the spiritual master. If it is according to the instructions of the spiritual master, then we don't need to worry about most of the other things. But we cannot take that again as a license and misuse it. It should be a honest introspection of, yes, this is according to the instructions of my spiritual master. Then most of our activities will be situated, like getting up early, going to bed early, eating certain things which are helpful for our to keep our focus on devotion service, trying to conduct ourselves with other people in general, devotees in specific, in certain ways which is conducive for devotion service. So naturally all our activities will become very much favorable to devotional service, and in a sense be situated in mode of goodness. Even if it is sometimes like very passionate, you are like busy, and being busy is not being passionate, but at the same time you need to use that mode actually to achieve anything in this world creatively. So still you will not be affected by those modes if our focus, if our intentions are giving pleasure to Krishna. Eventually the body will show certain signs of when we engage in certain modes. So then we'll be able to overcome those modes by the effect of by the strength of devotion service. It's a big topic. It's not very easy. It's not like black and white. At the same time, if a person is sincerely engaging in devotion service, he will understand when he needs to make the adjustment in the right way, so that he can continue to be engaged in devotion service without any obstacles posed by these lower modes. So
Prabhu, I just need, this is burning. If we are pleasing the spiritual master, or that's our intention, why isn't that transcendental, since the spiritual master represents Krishna? Why is it just the mode of goodness?
It's perfect what you're asking. When I said it meant like externally, it will at least manifest in the mode of goodness. Generally, I mentioned, like say a devotee's general lifestyle, it is transcendental in a sense. It is spiritual, but still, when it manifests in this world externally to look at, it'll at least usually look like it is mode of goodness.
Okay. So it has the appearance of mode of goodness, but
Yes,
it's
at
actually
least.
transcendental. It's actually
Yeah.
transcendental.
The effect of that particular mode will be transcendental in the sense sagunan samatitetan. It will bring him above the three modes. It will not. It will help him. It will keep him on internally. It will keep him on a less level where he is not affected by those very modes that he is being engaged in, even in his service. He will not be affected by those three modes. Other things, because still is within this material manifestation, will show the effects of those modes actually. Even a pure devotee, his body will actually dwindle. Sometimes he can be like diseased, or sometimes he can show fatigue and all these things, because he has to interact with the modes and this elements. However, in general, you will see the activities of a pure devotee will actually reflect mode of goodness. They will have a very stable schedule. They will actually act in very pleasing ways. Their lifestyle will be much pleasing. Take Srila Prabhupada also. He is a pure devotee. Everything he does is transcendental. Still, if you see in terms of his time, how he keeps up time, if he has to be there at some place at a particular time, he'll be there. Without any kind of many devotees have this experienced by, if you listen to their memories of interacting with Srila Prabhupada, he's not in a he just manifests those activities so elegantly and without having any mode of passion coming across, without any big hurry or rush, but he's doing everything perfectly when he has, and at the right at the right time, in a most pleasing way. So this is a side effect of being a pure devotee, but it at least manifests as mode of goodness externally speaking for a normal person. So we may not be immediately on the level of an advanced devotee, but at least our activities should be actually not causing trouble or becoming our engagement in devotion service, at least we call it as, it should not become an obstacle for our further engagement in devotion service. We become so passionate that we are unable to, then we are like being obstructed further in our devotion service or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Dear devotees, take shower, chant your rounds early, have a regulated schedule, and please your spiritual master, and you'll be okay. By Gaura Sharana Prabhu. Yeah, right? Gaura Sharana Prabhu, thank you very much. This is the Vaishnava. He didn't cancel his class, gave perfect class, broke everything up for us nicely. Thank you, Gaura Sharana Prabhu. We love you. We hope you feel better. Yeah, we also love Krishna Das, Rameshwar Naik, William Prabhu, Yogeshwari, Dhanakeli Das, Suzanne, Preeti Chaturvedi, Kartik, Pet, Angelika, Gitanjali, Amish, Gail, questionnaire, Arjuna Prabhu, bowing down to you, Anand Singh, and Olga, love you all. Haribol, have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.